You're talking about a revolution. It sounds like a whisper.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another show of New Hampshire Citizens for Progress. We got a show, you know, those forever chemicals. We just heard about the cancer clusters in Merrimack with the PFAS, and there's another forever chemical that people are concerned about that's showing up everywhere in our environment, and that's plastic. I have a couple guests here that they're really interested in doing something about it, but they're going to need you to help them. So let me introduce the guests here. Well, I'll have them introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Christina Dubin. I am a Portsmouth resident. I'm a volunteer with Surfrider Foundation's New Hampshire chapter, as well as Portsmouth RAD, which stands for Waste Reduction and Diversion. And I will be volunteering as a 10 Towns, 10 Actions resource leader. I'm also a public policy student at UNH, and I'm interning with the Sustainability Institute.
And I'm Cindy Heath, and I live in Cornish Flat, New Hampshire, and I'm a member of the Cornish Conservation Commission and founded the Living a Sustainable Lifestyle Tea and Talk Conversation group a couple of years ago, where we help individuals learn how to modify their behavior to manage plastic waste and live more sustainably. And I also convened the plastics work group of the New Hampshire Network back in August to try to begin to address some of the problems that are related to plastic around the state as well.
So the New Hampshire Network, that I was elected one of the managers of this group, and it's brand new this year. And basically what it is, it's a communication hub for environmental, climate, and energy groups in the state of New Hampshire. And one of the things that took place from this is a whole bunch of different organizations are working together, and we're trying to make each other aware of what they're working on. And from this, a plastic work group formed. Now, this has many individuals and various organizations, the League of Conservation Voters, 350 New Hampshire, New Hampshire Sierra Club. I think we're up to 70-something members of organizations in the network at this time. And these people have decided to address the issue of plastics in the environment. And what got you interested in this? Share your story of why you're spending time out of your life to do this.
Well, for me, Rick, it was basically an experience that I had last summer where I ordered a chipper shredder online, and it came packaged in styrofoam, rigid styrofoam. And I could not find a way to bring it to the landfill. I had to find another way to manage this waste that I had produced from my consumption. So I set about researching how to find places that recycle styrofoam, and in the process learned that it's actually called polystyrene. And I found a place in Massachusetts that's a materials recycling facility that takes this material, they densify it, which means melts it down, turns it into a brick, and that brick is then shipped up to Canada to be reused in home insulation use. Through the process, I also learned that styrofoam is one of the few plastics that can be used again and again. So unlike many plastics, which once they're recycled, they can't be recycled again because the quality degrades, not so with styrofoam. So that was kind of my entry into this. And then I thought that we really needed to work together to help not only residents and citizens, but businesses take responsibility for plastic waste in general. And so that made me want to convene a group around the state to try to achieve these initiatives. And the other thing that inspired me was, I think we've all seen it by now, but the photo of the albatross with its stomach cut open full of plastic in a remote island in the world's Pacific Ocean. And it just struck me that it was just such a sad story that our marine life is eating plastic, thinking it's food, and that works its way up the food chain into our food as well. So the health impacts of plastic really have been a major motivation of mine.
And I began working with on the issue of plastics through the Surfrider Foundation New Hampshire chapter. I'm currently the Rise Above Plastics program lead. But when I first joined, the chapter had already been involved trying to get a single-use bag ban, plastic bag ban, to happen in Portsmouth. And so they spent years on that, and it really laid the groundwork for Councillor Josh Denton's 2 ordinances that did pass in Portsmouth with major help from the high school eco club members. And that's ultimately how they passed. But I, same as Cindy, am very focused on the public health ramifications as well as the environmental impacts. Through the Surfrider New Hampshire chapter, we hold monthly beach cleanups. So I'm a part of that, and it's a great awareness tool to get out there and see. You'd be surprised how much you find, and people are always surprised at how much, how many pounds we find in one cleanup. Last month, we collected 210 pounds, and most of it was plastic. So even though you can't see the problem like some areas of the world, it's there. And so this group is a great opportunity to bring together all the different groups' efforts in the state to educate and ultimately put in place action and good policy to reduce single-use plastics.
Yeah, I want to share with you one of the reasons why I was interested in this subject. I mean, it's one of those chemicals, forever chemicals, that doesn't go away. It just keeps getting smaller and smaller, and we had thought we could recycle it, and that was only partially successful. And in many ways, it just keeps getting smaller and smaller, and they started finding it in the placenta of our babies, and that there's miniature plastic in every part of our environment and our biology. So I was really excited to see some people doing something about it. I see you got listed in 8 R's. Can you explain to us what the 8 R's are?
Sure. This is a new waste hierarchy. New Hampshire has its own waste hierarchy that I think Christina's going to talk a little bit about, but this is a new waste hierarchy. We're familiar with the 3 R's, the 5 R's, reduce, reuse, recycle, but the 8 R's are very interesting because they include things like repair, regift, renew, and this 8R hierarchy was created by the University of Technology, Sydney in Australia, and it kind of has prioritizing waste avoidance or source reduction at the very top of the hierarchy. It's a circle, and it goes through refusing, reducing, reusing, regifting, repairing, repurposing, and way, way down at the very end of the cycle is recycling and waste recovery. So we know recycling is not the answer, but it's an interim step that we can take while scientists and researchers are working on alternatives to plastics as we know them now. So we're really focused on, with this 8 R's waste hierarchy, helping people relate that to rethinking plastic and how can we go about doing that with actions in our communities.
The reason why we're doing the show right now is because you guys have the 10 Towns campaign coming up, and you're going to be doing January 24th a New Hampshire network as part of the general meeting, introducing people to this campaign, that the 10 Towns campaign. Can you tell us what that is about, or more?
Sure. So the 10 Towns, 10 Actions campaign was created as a major focus of the plastics work group when we convened in August. We knew we wanted to help communities address plastic waste and pollution, and we also wanted to hold polluters accountable. We also wanted to advance support for legislation that addresses plastic waste and pollution in our state. So we have a 10 Towns, 10 Actions campaign that we've developed, which is made up of people that are educators, researchers, business and policy analysts, journalists, artists, all kinds of people from all different sectors of their communities and professions. And we are trying to help other communities advance plastic waste initiatives. So far, we've got communities that are showing success in Dover, Portsmouth, Hopkinton, Cornish, and with the actions that have currently been taken to address plastic specifically, we're building on that. We do have community resource leaders from 10 towns right now who have signed on, who are willing to help others take these actions. So things like the work in Portsmouth for the single-use plastic ban. Hopkinton has some education programs about plastic waste. In Cornish, we have done plant pot recycling and styrofoam recycling collections. So all of these small initiatives adding up is what the 10 Towns campaign is all about, to build momentum for support for legislation down the road.
And Christina, would you like to add to that?
I'll say a little bit about the different tools that we have within the toolkit. So they are focused either on policy, engagement, or infrastructure. As I mentioned before, for example, I worked to help pass originally a local plastic bag ban with a fee mechanism on paper bags. And that kind of paved the way for the subsequent ordinances that were passed. And then an example of engagement, again, beach cleanups are a great way to engage the community. So that's an action that could be taken. I've also presented to the Dover Democrats on the issue of environmental justice, which seeks to address the environmental racism, which is inherent in the full life cycle of plastics from production to usage to disposal. And then in terms of infrastructure, I'm currently working with Portsmouth RAD to divert food scraps and then also lead a composting pilot for residential building. So these are all just examples of different types of actions that people can volunteer to lead in their own communities.
So it sounds like rather than waiting for the federal government or the state government to take action, what we have here is citizens, which is, they're supposed to represent you, your state and federal representatives. And you're stepping out ahead of this and making it known to them what you want done.
Exactly. And I will say that, the entire New Hampshire delegation they've been a leader, as you said in the beginning, in terms of PFAS. And particularly Representative Chris Pappas. I've met with his office a few times to talk about plastics and microplastics and the negative impacts on our health and on our environment here in New Hampshire. As you said, they photodegrade into tiny pieces. They're in our soil, in our water. And there is federal legislation right now, the Break Free from Plastic Pollution Act. But as you said, we really can't wait. We as citizens have to rethink plastic. We need to reduce our usage and, really, like you said, just take charge of it, and eventually state and federal policy will catch up.
Well, for those of you out there, what's going on is this is a new campaign. It's starting February 7th. The 10 Towns Toolkit will be released to the public. There is a general meeting of the New Hampshire network where the plastics work group will be introducing themselves and what they're going to be doing. And none of this works without you. I mean, we've seen it with the Citizens Climate Lobby and the establishment of the energy committees throughout the state of New Hampshire. I mean, it was citizens saying, we need this, and pressuring their legislators and being their legislators, because in cities you do resolutions, and in smaller towns you do warrant articles to pass legislation that you want for a citizen to submit it. And cities are a little more complicated, where you have aldermen that you need to have them to forward and put forward the legislation or your ideas. This part is for people that want to know more. What is this 10 Towns project? How do people get involved in it? What's the expectations? I mean, Citizens Climate Lobby was successful in getting energy committees throughout the state of New Hampshire and a lot of areas, and that was done this very same way. Open democracy and the democracy groups got transparent. There was transparent redistricting. They just didn't listen to us. I mean, they just did what they wanted anyhow. But we did get to participate this time. Last time they did the redistricting, we didn't know what it was till it was over with. Then they, yeah, okay, you can see the maps now. But, I mean, it was transparent. It was just not participatory. So how do we make this participatory for the people, and what is it?
Public participation is very important, and we want this to be open to individuals, to towns, to cities. So really anyone can bring forth action in their community. And our toolkit gives you a starting place. It literally says start here, so that you don't have to feel like you need to know exactly how to navigate that process. And then we have resource leaders that have already led that action, so that you can contact someone who has experience. So you can partner with libraries, schools, parks and rec departments, solid waste facilities, grocery stores, restaurants, as well as city or town administrators. And so just any level that you want to engage on, we can help you figure out how to reach out and get that process started.
During the break, when just you and I, just the three of us were talking, that this is available for individuals, organizations, and anybody, was one of the versatile things about this toolkit.
Absolutely. And some great examples of that are in the city of Dover. The Dover Democrats partnered with the library on a pretty extensive education campaign around plastic waste, and also contributed some books to the library for children about the subject, and have a program that they call the Dover Green Tips, which is a series of tips about how to reduce plastic in your life. Another great example of, and that's an example of an organization partnering with another organization. But in our small town of Cornish, we have a select board. We don't have a sustainability committee, but we have a very small recycling center that's very active, and they agreed to help support plastic education through signage at the recycling center. And we were able to host a plant pot recycling event in the middle of town at the store, as well as a styrofoam recycling event. And we expanded that initiative to partner with more people in Lebanon. The Sustainability Committee, as well as the Lebanon Rotary came together, and over 100 people brought their styrofoam packaging to this collection, and we filled 37 Gaylord boxes in a 20-foot trailer to bring it down to Massachusetts for processing. So all of that volume in just 2 hours stayed out of the landfill, which is really important, because waste reduction and source reduction is one of the things we're trying to do. And it's really important to try to navigate it however we can. We need everybody's help. You don't have to necessarily be a leader, but you can join a campaign that's already ongoing in your community. You can start something yourself and get other people to join you. We never, essentially need all hands on deck for this problem right now. And that's what the toolkit's designed to do, is drive people right to action. We know what the problems are. We know the health impacts. We know the science. Now, what are we going to do about it? And that's why the toolkit is a really useful resource for anyone. You can plug into it anywhere, small town, big city, and it can work for you to address whatever issues you want to address in your community. And we're also looking forward to hearing more about actions that are already being taken that we may not be aware of. So we'll have an opportunity for people to share their success stories, so that we can build on all of the good things that are happening and learn from each other.
So both of you shared with us why you became involved and you're spending time in this. What is your hope or your vision at the end of this? What do you see this end result being?
My hope is that a lot of people will get involved, that there will be a lot of action all over the state, and that in and of itself is going to be beneficial, right, to our communities, to individuals. But all of those actions show that we need state level policy to get at source reduction, that we're going to need help. And, state level policies end up leading to federal. So I see this as seeding action to rethink plastics and to rethink our usage of them and consumption of them, but then we're also going to need the tap to be turned off. There's only, as individuals, we are limited sometimes in our choices and our options. And so there is going to have to be that policy piece so that we turn off that tap from all this plastic being created. It's subsidized, so that's why it's cheaper often than alternatives. But we can turn that around. And so I hope that a lot of people will be motivated to join and create action in their own community.
I hope that working together we can make a difference. I think we're going to want to be sure to engage the business community and the manufacturers of plastic in this solution. And there are extended producer responsibility laws that are being developed in states all over the country. And we want to be sure to work with our manufacturers to see if they can be part of the solution. And that eventuality might come to New Hampshire. We're not sure, but we do need to make sure that we're having individual behavior change as well as businesses taking a look at their waste streams and managing those in a way that's different so that we can rethink plastics altogether.
Well, I know for myself, I've been paying attention. I happen to have the pleasure of studying one under Paul Stamets, one of the top mythologists, mushroom people in the world. And recently I saw that they were using mushroom mycelium, the underground growth of the mushrooms, kind of like the root structure, to replace plastic, and that it was stronger, more durable, but yet it was biodegradable. So it looks like, all we have to do, we don't have to look that hard for alternatives or solutions, and that besides people themselves, if the businesses and organizations mandate that this is what we need to do, because we just can't keep putting it always on the end user. There's only so much that we can do as individuals, whereas the businesses have much more control of this product in our environment than we do. So,
and at the same time, the consumer's voice is strong, and we vote with our dollars as well as our voting right and privilege. And companies do seem to be looking at that and listening and trying to make change. Naturally, large companies are challenged with retooling their entire system to modify their use of plastics, but supply chain analysis and contracts for supply chains are starting to change so that plastic packaging is being commanded to be reduced, and that's a positive sign. So there is work being done on both the science level and in the business community globally to try to address this.
Well, we're running to the end of the show now. Is there anything that you'd like to add other than showing up for the general meeting of the New Hampshire Network the 24th and going to the website for the 10 Towns Toolkit when it's released? Is there anything else you want to tell our viewers here?
I would just say, don't be shy. There's a way for you to email us and reach out if you're interested or have questions. Please reach out.
And we'd be happy to have you join us. We are just getting started. We need all the help we can get.
Okay. Well, I want to thank the two of you for taking time and joining us here. I want to thank those of you at home for watching the show. I hope we were able to stimulate your interest in assisting and helping these people deal with this forever chemical that we have, another one, plastic. Let's get it out of our environment, out of our system, and out of our energy stream. We can't get rid of fossil fuels completely unless we get rid of plastics. So thank you. Be healthy, be safe, and have a good one.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.